The Nile River, a shimmering ribbon of life winding its way through the parched heart of Africa. For ancient Egyptians, it was more than a river. It was the source of their existence, the cradle of their civilization. Every aspect of their lives, from the food they ate to the gods they worshipped, was intricately interwoven with the Nile's ebb and flow. Imagine a land where rain rarely falls, a land dominated by an unforgiving desert. This was the reality for the ancient Egyptians. Yet amidst this arid landscape, the Nile provided a fertile oasis, its annual floods depositing rich silt that nourished the land. This predictable cycle of inundation and retreat was the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, enabling the development of agriculture and the growth of a thriving civilization. Without the Nile, there would be no Egypt as we know it. Its waters sustained life, its floods fertilized the land, and its currents provided a vital artery for trade and communication. It was the stage upon which the grand drama of ancient Egyptian civilization unfolded, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience in the face of a challenging environment. The story of ancient Egypt begins not with towering pyramids or mighty pharaohs, but with small, scattered communities learning to harness the Nile's bounty. These early Egyptians, living in the pre-dynastic period, around 6000 to 3150 BC, were pioneers, developing the agricultural practices that would form the bedrock of their civilization. They observed the Nile's rhythms, learning to predict the floods and cultivate crops like barley and wheat during the fertile soil. They domesticated animals, cattle, sheep, goats, further securing their food supply. These advancements allowed for larger, more settled communities to flourish, laying the foundations for a more complex society. As these communities grew, so too did their cultural sophistication. Evidence suggests the emergence of distinct cultural groups, such as the Badarian and Nakada cultures, each with their unique pottery styles and burial practices. Trade networks emerged, connecting the Nile Valley with distant lands and fostering the exchange of ideas and goods. The stage was set for the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, and the birth of a dynasty that would rule for millennia. Around 3100 BC, a pivotal moment arrived, the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under a single ruler, marking the beginning of the early dynastic period. Around 3150 to 2686 BC, King Menes, the legendary unifier, established Memphis as his capital, a strategic location near the apex of the Nile Delta. This era witnessed the emergence of a powerful centralized state ruled by divine kings, the Pharaohs. The pharaoh was not merely a political leader. He was considered a living god, the embodiment of Horus, the falcon god, and responsible for maintaining order and prosperity throughout the land. It was during the Old Kingdom, around 2686 to 2181 BC, that Egyptian civilization reached its first zenith. This was the age of pyramid building, massive stone monuments that served as tombs for the pharaohs and testaments to their power and divine right to rule. The most famous of these, the pyramids of Giza, still stand today, enduring symbols of ancient Egyptian ingenuity and architectural prowess. The course of Egyptian history, like the Nile itself, was not always smooth. Periods of stability and prosperity were often punctuated by eras of upheaval and fragmentation, known as intermediate periods. The first intermediate period, around 2181 to 2055 BC, followed the collapse of the Old Kingdom, a time when central authority weakened and regional governors asserted their independence. Yet even in these times of political fragmentation, the Nile remained a unifying force. Its life-giving waters continued to sustain the population, and its currents facilitated trade and communication between the disparate regions. The cultural unity, forged by the Nile, proved remarkably resilient, laying the groundwork for reunification and renewed prosperity. The first intermediate period, while marked by political instability, was not a time of cultural decline. In fact, it witnessed the flourishing of regional art and literature, reflecting the diverse expressions of Egyptian culture. This period also saw the rise of new religious ideas, with Osiris, the god of the underworld and rebirth, gaining prominence. This focus on resurrection and the afterlife would have a lasting impact on Egyptian religious beliefs. From the turmoil of the First Intermediate Period, a new dynasty emerged, reuniting Egypt and ushering in the Middle Kingdom around 2055 to 1650 BC. Mentuhotep II, a Theban ruler, defeated his rivals and established a new capital at Thebes, a city destined to become a center of Egyptian power for centuries. The Middle Kingdom was a time of renewed stability and prosperity. Pharaohs like Senusret III and Amenemhat III undertook ambitious irrigation projects, expanding agricultural land and boosting food production. Trade flourished, connecting Egypt with distant lands such as Nubia and the Levant. This era also witnessed a flowering of art, literature, and architecture. Temples and tombs were adorned with intricate carvings and paintings, reflecting a sophisticated artistic sensibility. Literature flourished, with works like the Tale of Sinuhe offering glimpses into the lives and beliefs of ordinary Egyptians. The Middle Kingdom, though often overshadowed by the grandeur of the Old and New Kingdoms, was a pivotal period in Egyptian history, laying the groundwork for the empire building that would follow. Section 6, an empire's zenith. Following another period of instability known as the Second Intermediate Period around 1650 to 1550 BC, Egypt entered its most glorious phase. The New Kingdom circa 1550 to 1069 BC. This was the age of empire, when powerful pharaohs like Thutmose III and Ramesses II led their armies to victory, expanding Egyptian influence far beyond the Nile Valley. The New Kingdom witnessed Egypt at its most powerful and prosperous. Its armies, equipped with chariots and bronze weapons, conquered vast territories, extending Egyptian rule into Nubia to the south and Canaan to the northeast. This expansion brought access to valuable resources, such as gold, timber, and slaves, further enriching the Egyptian state. The wealth of the New Kingdom fueled a period of unparalleled artistic and architectural achievement. Magnificent temples dedicated to gods like Amun-Re and Karnak were constructed, their towering pylons and colossal statues a testament to Egyptian piety and architectural prowess. The Valley of the Kings, a hidden necropolis near Thebes, became the final resting place for pharaohs like Tutankhamun, whose lavish tomb, discovered intact in 1922, continues to captivate the world. Section 7, the Twilight of the Pharaohs. The New Kingdom, like all empires, eventually declined. Internal strife, economic woes, and external threats weakened the once mighty state. The Third Intermediate Period, circa 1069 to 664 BC, saw Egypt once again fragmented, ruled by a succession of Libyan, Nubian, and Assyrian kings. While these foreign rulers often adopted Egyptian customs and titles, their rule marked a significant shift in Egyptian history. The pharaohs were no longer the undisputed masters of their domain. Egypt, once the dominant power in the region, was now increasingly vulnerable to foreign influence and control. Despite these challenges, Egyptian culture proved remarkably resilient. Temples continued to be built, albeit on a smaller scale than during the New Kingdom, and traditional religious practices endured. Even under foreign rule, the Nile continued to bind the land together, its annual flood still the lifeblood of the Egyptian people. Section 8, Echoes of Grandeur. In the late 7th century BC, a brief but brilliant resurgence occurred under the Sate dynasty from 664 to 525 BC. These rulers, based in the Nile Delta city of Sais, managed to reunite Egypt and expel the Assyrians, ushering in a period known as the Sate Renaissance. The Sate pharaohs looked back to the glories of the Old Kingdom for inspiration. Reviving artistic styles and religious practices from that era, they commissioned impressive building projects, restoring old temples and constructing new ones, albeit often on a smaller scale than their predecessors. The Sate Renaissance, however, proved to be a last gasp of glory for an ancient civilization on the wane. In 525 BC, the Persian king Cambyses II conquered Egypt, ending centuries of independence and ushering in a new era of foreign rule. Section 9, the Nile's legacy. The Persian conquest marked a turning point in Egyptian history. While Egypt would experience brief periods of independence under native rulers, it would never again regain its former glory. The Ptolemaic dynasty from 305 to 30 BC, founded by Alexander the Great's general Ptolemy I Soter, ruled Egypt as a Hellenistic kingdom, blending Greek and Egyptian cultures. Following the death of Cleopatra VII in 30 BC, Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire, its once mighty pharaohs replaced by Roman emperors. Yet despite centuries of foreign rule, the legacy of ancient Egypt lived on. The pyramids and temples continued to inspire awe and wonder, testaments to the ingenuity and artistry of a lost civilization. The Nile, the river that had nurtured this civilization from its earliest beginnings, continued to flow, a timeless symbol of continuity and endurance. The story of ancient Egypt is a testament to the power of the Nile. It was the river that made life possible in an otherwise unforgiving land. The river that sustained a civilization for over 3,000 years. From the first farmers who settled along its banks to the mighty pharaohs who ruled an empire, the Nile was the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, shaping its destiny and leaving an indelible mark on human history.